So legendary, in fact, that he's got a skin for it. I wonder why. But FPX this time around, Viego's going to be the first pick, and LNG thinking about the Renekton again. They don't want to change around from this pick. They still love looking at high-priority Renekton.
Yeah, I mean, look, it's been pretty strong for Ali. He really enjoys this pick, and Ali has been a person who kind of has these like set picks ever since he's been in the LPL, right? It's the Camille, the Jax, like Camille by far his most played, and he's like, cool, Renekton fits my kind of lane bully style. I want to go towards this with this Renekton, get myself solid pick on the top side. This, I'm actually surprised that if the Varus gets locked in, because traditionally we've kind of seen, hey, you know, Light's willing to kind of go towards more like the Ezreals, play a little bit more at the weak side, but haven't seen a lot of the Varus form in playoffs, so interested to see this Varus locked in now rather than something like the Ashe.
Because Dagda, we know that for LNG, if the Ziggs was open, it'd be Ziggs straight away, right?
Yeah.
Light has loved it in playoffs. He has been 5 out of 6 games with a win, has an 11.5 KDA, and FPX second time around that they've banned it away. So definitely done their homework coming into this one. Light goes on to the Varus that you said we haven't seen much in playoffs, and you're exactly right. While on the other side, it's straight back to the Aphelios Lwx comfort.
I mean, he loves this pick, and I think it actually does pretty well against the Varus. Like, especially the level 2 spike from Aphelios means you can push out the wave where you usually don't expect it to against this Varus, but does give yourself a little bit of priority towards these early scuttles and things like that. FPX, though, going to go back towards the normal. Nuguri going to take the Kennen here, good into the Renekton, and, I mean, has a strong performance again at, like, preventing this Renekton from operating in team fights. So maybe we get a bit of a mix-up from LNG. Maybe they decide to operate at range here instead. Like, you could actually take something like the Zoe here for Icon. It's been an incredibly strong pick for him in the past. And I think then you just try to play this more poke-oriented style, use the Renekton as this big beefcake in the front line, where if you try to engage onto LNG, that's when this Renekton becomes enabled.
There's also something else we could talk about, like the Rise, if it comes through as well, Dag. Just something that can do similar things, but more importantly, will have priority between Doinb and Icon, considering it is some of their most played of all time. So we get the Diana for now. We can talk about those mid lane picks a little bit deeper, because in the second ban phase, Dagda, Doinb without a champion, Icon without a champion, unless we see that Viego flexed around, or alternatively, Icon's Renekton again, which has a bad taste in my mouth, but I'm willing to be surprised.
I think my biggest surprise here is that we're seeing Tarzan lock in this jungler. And I know that's like weird for me to say, because people coming in are going to be like, well, you usually take jungle early, right? That's not the LNG way, especially on red side. It has been in those later picks. And I mean, I think it's just a case of they're going, hey, look, we kind of feel that this is going to be a Viego jungle. And maybe that's what they're trying to predict here. But again, you're opted into this heavy dive composition against an Aphelios and against the Kennen. They get enabled really well by these styles of draft. So I think from LNG, they're trying to play a very similar story to what we saw in game number 1, and hoping that if the screws don't come off the train that early, maybe they can actually get out of the station.
Get out of the laning phase without, you know, the train falling off a cliff. You want context, guys? Us writing a couple of line finishes as well. We're trying to talk about the train for LNG, if it does fall off here, and what it looks like. But it got a little bit gory, a little bit fast. The train derailing is not an eventuality we want to go through right now, because LNG is a best of 5. But they have lost the Yasuo. So this is a combo we've seen before, Dagda. What do you call it again? Run me through it. What's it called?
The Saki Fall.
A Saki Fall. Yeah. Not this game, unfortunately. You get Icons. LeBlanc once again.
Yeah, the LeBlanc can be taken here. It does mean that for like Doinb in the mid lane, you got a double magic resist comp. You can go towards something like the Galio, eh? I mean, you can go towards something that is just like, cool, this is going to do really well in the mid jungle 2v2. Let's enable Tian on something like this Viego, and plays towards the stall that has been Doinb's stall. Bruiser, also that can play towards side lanes. Galio fits that perfectly.
It does. I was going to say, you know, it could be a flex, but looking here, Dagda, you hit the nail on the head. The Sett being picked up, you know, once again, that'll be locked in. FPX can still play around with the picks, and we'll see where it goes, but let's keep our mind on that for now. Dagda, another all-in composition. That thing just slams in and dogpiles.
I actually love what FPX have done here, right? Because yes, you've got that like aggressive engage that you're talking about with the Sett that can follow up with Galio, but flip reverse it, you've got this crazy strong composition for protecting this Aphelios. You've got the Kennen ultimate that comes down, Galio ultimate comes down, Sett to reset these engages. It is going to be really difficult to get on towards Lwx, and especially when you're looking at LNG's composition, right, who definitely are an incredibly short range apart from that Varus. It's going to be pretty difficult for them to operate, so I expect FPX to put a lot of pressure down towards this bottom side, potentially even looking for these early dive setups and trying to see if they can snowball Lwx to the point where he's just massive on this Aphelios.
So is it fair again talking about LNG just to talk about the pick potential here, Dagda, because it is very obvious, you know, to talk about how they move towards lanes and again more of the fighting, but for LNG, I see the range you can play with at Varus, but we still have the LeBlanc, we still have Diana. Well, this time we have Diana and LNG, and we still have the Renekton.
I think the biggest issue for me is that, like, for LNG, it's hard to try and find your foothold in this game, right? The mid jungle 2v2, double AP, you've just set yourself up against the Galio, not going to go so hot, especially when you're trying to play this, like, heavy dive style that does so well against, Galio does so well against. You've got a losing top lane matchup if Nuguri plays this correctly in the Renekton. And even on the bottom side, I mean, it's not like you've got a huge amount that you can try and work with this Varus either, because you tend to have a huge amount of pressure coming from mid down. So I think it's going to have your work cut out for you here as LNG to try and find these creative moments to get these early leads. And if you have enough burst potential, hell yeah, you can look for picks. You can take out Lwx before the fight even kicks off, but it's going to be a tall order.
Really is, because LNG momentum against them. FPX cleaned them out in 25 minutes in game number 1. The guys on your screen, often the focus of the FunPlus Phoenix, but Doinb, Dagda, a very different feeling in game number 2, more a supportive role. We're not getting the Irelia this time, we are getting the Galio who has Predator mid. And let's see where he can go with it, let's see where he can take it, because Icon this time around, Dagda, might have a much more exciting laning phase, or maybe a much better laning phase than we saw when he got bullied out after the dive. Folks, welcome to the series if you're just joining us now. FPX have already showcased a masterclass in game number 1. But in this best of 5 to secure semi-finals in the LPL 2021 summer, one game is only the beginning. We have to see how far it can go. Deep ward on the top side, and it looks like it was Tian who placed it to go back and get a lens. Just a quick note here as well, Dagda. I mentioned in Pick and Ban at the end of draft that Doinb has Predator.
Yeah, and I 100% expect him to start roaming early. The big issue for Icon in this lane is that traditionally to try and push the wave as LeBlanc, you max W, you leap yourself into the wave. If Galio's just there, he just stuns you up, you get a really good trade, and Tian could even try and follow that up. So for Icon, trying to get control of this wave is actually pretty difficult to do. So for Doinb, if he starts to roam again down towards this bottom side, you look for these 4-man plays, potentially 5-man plays if Nuguri's in tow. And it's very difficult for Lwandy to try and go against that.
I'm wondering where things are going to lead up with the jungle pathing starting on opposite sides here. The deep wards that we place towards the top side, not placed towards enemy jungle. Defensive on the Raptor side there for Tarzan as well as he makes his way towards top. And you can see Tian will be pathing towards the bottom side as well. So a little bit different this time, Dagda, but it does feel like a slower early game to be expected.
Yeah, I think for at least level 4 or 5, when Doinb actually starts to get a bit more control of that lane, that's where we'll see the difference. But for the moment, I think it's going to be pretty stock standard, especially when you look at like FPX, right? They can go for these plays, but even if they don't, Aphelios late game, you got Tian on this Aphelios in the later portion of the game, they're going to be pretty substantial beasts to deal with. So for LNG, again, I need to see these early plays happening. I want to see the impact Tarzan can have, but unfortunately he's on the Diana, which doesn't exactly lend itself to early plays.
No, it does not. Waiting for that 6 mark at least. Feels like we're waiting for 6 for a lot of these champions as well. Just a quick highlight of the champion pool. Tian is 7-1 on the Viego. Quite a big deal considering that Nuguri as well. Now 4-0 after that last game. His Kennen running the world skin too. I feel like he might just be playing it to show off the skin. That's what I would do, Dagda, honestly. You know, you can't stay humble for too long as Tarzan moves to the top side. He's actually not on his Kennen skin. He played it in game 1. Kind of disappointed that we're not seeing it once again. Okay, that's a flash. Okay, they're actually going to go in. Nuguri as well has to burn his own. As Tarzan spotted out. Flash for flash.
Yeah, now Tian going to start to go towards the scuttle. Now Tarzan is low.
And he is not going to be caught out by the Spectrum more. Tian still sticking around to contest as Icon's moving first. Doinb only level 3, Icon 4. Huge CS difference in the mid lane as well. So LNG going to pick it up for now as moving to the mid lane. Tian, once again, does not get the root down.
Yeah, trying to see if he can get this push in mid, allowed Doinb the opportunity to roam bot side, so Tarzan can't go for the double scuttle, but Icon's doing a good job of getting this damage onto Tian and making him a little bit low as he goes towards this bot side.
And he's going to maintain the CS lead as well. Bot side, you mentioned, for Tian looking for the scuttle. Icon didn't order that, so Doinb's just going to hold fast on the back until he doesn't. Ladies and gentlemen, again, game number 1 was very much about the early blood. Dagda, it's 4 minutes in, and I'm waiting for that first blood to come through. I feel like a greedy boy in Christmas after what we've experienced. Let's reiterate, level 6 again, coming for Doinb. Feels like an important point to talk about. You also mentioned Tarzan there before we start seeing any action.
Yeah, I think the ultimate's obviously going to be a big key one for Doinb. Potential, if he can, to start roaming a little bit earlier. As you can see, TPing back into lane. He could shove this and try to work with the consistent push that Lwx and Crisp have in this bottom lane. And this is kind of why we start to see Aphelios a little bit more into the Varus, right? He actually has really good push off of those early levels because of the Infernum and also just having access to things like the Chakram where he can trade super effectively in Severum. And now you start to get these turret plates going down, a couple of shots with Calibrum. You kind of have a lot of tools to work with at Lwx that do really well against this Varus for light. So if you can start to get these plates, get these dives, I think that's where FPX are going to start to get this early lead.
He's had a pretty good laning phase so far, and even though Lwx receives a lot of flack, we have to remember that he's still an upper echelon 80 carrying the league. Had a rough spring, I'd say a rough 2020 in general as well, but has been pretty decent as Doinb's looking for the invade on our screens. Just note that he used Predator before but didn't go anywhere with it. And the man that we're just talking about is in a heavy trade in the bottom lane. So once again, looking for LNG to get this game started. Tarzan's almost level 6. Still towards that top side with Nuguri pushing out. That's where the third scuttle's going to spawn. And Tarzan with a bit of a speed lead. While onto Light in the bottom lane. This 1v1 at 80 carries. Light takes it in. But Aphelios flashes and Lwx a couple of autos away while the minions have spiced this one up. TP through. The arrow dodge. But the TP with Icon, he'll have a bit of momentum. He has flash too. Lwx with no hope will be first blooded by the mid laner of LNG.
It's because everyone else for FPX is topside.
Yes, they are. They want to kill Arle. Will they do it successfully? For now, as Chris takes the next shot, but the Haymaker shield keeps him alive. Tarzan doesn't have ulti, and it ends up being a trade.
And just as you say, Lwx, yes, he's one of those 80 carries at the upper echelons. Yes, he looks amazing on this Aphelios. But he has these moments where you're making a play elsewhere as FPX and Lwx tries to make the hero play himself and gets caught out. And that was one of them there. TP comes in from Icon. They finish off Lwx. So although they get Nuguri ahead, Lwx actually falls slightly behind now because of that bad trade.
Yeah, I mean, 49 CS to 55. The death as well means the wave pushes in while we're still actioning up in the top side. Here's the hero's entrance. Doinb flying through with the Predator enacted as well. The Shield of Duran forces flash. Lwandy's now made the roam here as the Alistar, but Crisp in too with the Spellbook. Now with FPX, so they're getting concaved on, but Nuguri ready to go over the wall. Stuns up by Lwandy. Nuguri needs to ult, but it's not available. Lwandy's buying time. FPX now no longer have a numbers equilibrium as Nuguri's running for the hills. Doinb wants the Shield of Duran once more, but it's a Galio with a level 2 pair of boots. Nuguri running for the hills. He too will burn in his own boots as Tarzan helps to pick up the kill, and LNG make game 2 their reality.
And this is exactly what we wanted to see from LNG. Come in and beat FPX at their own game. Take these early skirmishes, find these advantages, and this time around, it's Ale and Tarzan and Icon setting them up. Doinb doesn't find the pick, and now you've got a 3-kill LeBlanc to deal with in the mid lane.
Well, that's big because Icon is about to slap back that pair of revenge. When game 1 he was sent so far behind he meant nothing. Tian not going to catch out Tarzan here as Nuguri returns to lane with a huge wave pushed in. Dagda, this is the early game we wanted to see out of LNG with this composition. This is going to bring that momentum back to the Thought and the Miracle Run as we look at how it all happened again.
I mean, look, this was just FPX overextending, right? Nuguri has no ult, so in a team fight, he just doesn't offer as much as someone like Ale. So as soon as this Renekton gets in, you can see Tian's already been burst down by this double assassin combo. And from that point forward, Ale is just tearing them apart. Doinb's trying his best, but he's got such long cooldowns, and the damage potential just isn't there in comparison to a Diana, LeBlanc, and Renekton. Like, just FPX not respecting the pressure that the champions and LNG have.
Huge start from Lwandy as well with the pulverized 3-man. The Alistar making bank, and let's bring it back because Icon is 3-0, as you mentioned. We've also got a Hextech alternator on Tarzan. He hasn't even picked up boots. He's gone straight for the power. And now that he's level 6 Dagda with Herald available, feels like LNG have a lot they can play towards.
Especially because we said, look, we wanted Icon, or at least LNG, to start getting ahead. Someone that can burst out Lwx before these fights start. A 3-kill LeBlanc, I'm going to put money on saying that probably has the potential to do it. Like, Icon on this LeBlanc is going to be real damn scary now for Lwx. So I think coming into this now, you've got to be so careful as Lwx and make sure that you've got Crisp there to try and protect you. Doinb constantly stand on top of you, because if you're ever caught out alone, Icon will just one-shot you.
And that's perfect, because LNG, now that they have tempo, they've got their early game that they set up for here, Dagda. Got a Dragon to take, they've got a Herald to take as well. They're starting with the Dragon, while Icon continues to control mid. And a problem we've seen with Galio in the past is when he can't leave the mid lane, when he can't escape, it just all falls apart.
And you're not really going to get a chance here, especially with Icon. Like, the LeBlanc has been his best champion. So unless Icon like tries to maybe go for roam and then Doinb can follow, but I think as long as like Icon kind of holds into this mid lane, as you say, just keep Doinb here, it's going to be really difficult now for FPX to try and set Lwx up for success. You can continue to have Tarzan play towards Ale, shut down Nuguri, and if you end up with most of your team behind, well, LNG, they're in a pretty good spot.
Yes, they are. They move straight to the Herald, and Tian gets off it. Nuguri in the top lane versus Ale. This 1v1 continuing again with the threat of the jungler of FPX approaching. LNG have aggroed the Herald here, and Icon sitting on the back of the pit. Doinb's already used Predator while the bottom lane. It's happening again! Lwx can't dodge it! Another solo kill in this series. You beauty! While Icon's over the wall and Lwandy, Tarzan converging. Dagda, Herald will be fought over.
And I don't know if you can fight this. FPX though looking for us.
Crisp has gone over. He has the showstopper available. LNG, it's 4 versus 4 with Light hitting the bottom lane turret. FPX pick up the Herald, but it's the ulti from the support as the Facebreaker gets 2-man connection, but Nuguri's ulti's on the back line, and Doinb's is far away. Shielded Duran has to be massive as resets start coming through from Tian. He turns into a cow and blows up a crocodile. Take that, food chain, with a double kill coming in. Icon's trying to bring it back, but FPX somehow come out ahead, are looking for more, and Icon now flashed upon, but double distortion means that was for nothing.
Distortion just about keeping Icon safe there, but I'm surprised that LNG were kind of battered back like that. Nuguri didn't really get that big of an ultimate off. He didn't really have a huge amount of like their damage potential there as well, because like Lwx was off. I thought that would have been a definitive LNG fight, but FPX come out with the fight, and crucially that Herald as well. Now they can start to get some of that much needed gold back in their favor, but we're going to get a replay of this bottom lane. Yeah, Lwx, he just gets caught out.
It's a lot of fun, Dagda, you got to admit, you know? It's fight for semi-finals, but also Aphelios stuff did come through.
Nearly, but Varus stuff kind of came through a bit harder there. We're going to get a replay here. So, like, in this fight, right, I'm looking at Nuguri, I'm like, he's not going to get in, he's not going to get that big ult. You know, the set ult doesn't really hit anyone either. But I'm watching here, Doinb, like, he misses with his ult, but just the damage that seems to come through here on towards LNG, there just isn't enough. Tian playing monstrously in this fight, being that big damage source that I thought would have been lacking for FPX right now.
Nice little heartbreaker, you're right. Surprising amount of damage in FPX, winning the fight, getting the Herald. But let's remember what it causes. TP comes in the top lane, and Icon not going to be setting up for the dive himself. Dagda, I wanted to point out that 2 plates down in the bottom lane, the solo kill as well, means that LNG is still ahead in gold and might even find this onto Doinb. Shielded Duran with a Moonfall. He's still buying time with the Blast Cone giving space. Tian abandoned, but Doinb needed to get out as he's buying his own time, but his clock's run out. LNG with another, and it's on to big bad Icon.
And now it's LNG taking control of this game. We said these early skirmishes were going to be crucial in this series. You're seeing it now. And a large portion of this is because of the man on your screen as well. Lwandy has been out-roaming Crisp this game and setting up Icon for success.
And now they're diving here onto Light in the bottom lane, but Lwx
Wait
is just getting hit by Light. Chris won't be able to finish the kill. He's blasted too. FPX got given one in game 1, and now they return the favor.
And LNG will whip that up happily. 3-0-1 on towards Light now. This Varus, it isn't even the poke Varus. This is on-hit Varus. He's gone for the Immortal Shield Bow. He's going to be a monster in these team fights. And one of the big damage sources, the consistent damage that I wanted to see, is now ahead on LNG side as well.
It's huge, Dagda. 3-0-1, 4-0-1, double bounty here and double trouble for FPX. Watch again because Light is doing so much damage.
So I actually think this was a mistake from Lwx. I don't think he was expecting the CC to come in, so he ends up tanking the turret while being stuck underneath the turret. I think it was just the auto attack coming through from being locked up that caused a bit of a disruption there. So nice job from Light. It means Lwx is just stuck underneath the turret.
And he's 0-3. I mean, not a good thing for FPX, as they note they're 3,000 gold behind at 14 minutes into the game. Herald will be put down here, which is to open up the map a bit, but Plate's already gone down, Dagda. First turret blood is the only thing they'll achieve.
At least it's something though, right? Because they need to get anything back in their favor. But one of the things about FPX is that, like, they don't give up, right? Just because they're down, they're going to keep trying to make these plays. They're going to keep trying to move around the map. So I think for LNG, I want to see them continuously pushing this advantage forward, taking fights at, well, objectives like this Dragon, trying to force FPX back, and keeping tabs on them with their vision, making sure that they're not being caught out by Doinb or Nuguri suddenly showing up with a TP.
Nuguri going to be able to push this top turret, and you talked about LNG on the other side with this gold lead. I mean, LNG have been a team in playoffs so far that have been pretty clean with measuring out their gold lead and playing to win. You know, a lot of teams in the LPL, a lot of these bottom tier teams will look at a gold lead or look at opportunities. Dagda, let me put my words in for a second. They'll have a gold lead and they won't know what to do with it. LNG haven't been that kind of team. I got there in the end. They've got a double dragon in this game. It is an Ocean Soul game as well. Definitely a condition that they set themselves up for in game 2 of this quarterfinal series.
Ooh, Lwx.
Yeah.
But
you know,
we're getting a little taste.
Bit sus. It's got to stop.
Yeah, just a little bit of a taste of what can happen later on for Lwx. He needs to be so careful. Now, we are getting FPX, though, playing the map out right now. They get bot lane turret. We're sending Doinb topside. And still having the opportunity to try and push through this kind of 1-3-1 or at least 1-4 if they want Nuguri to group with the rest of the team, does leave LNG a little bit vulnerable. And that's why I'm kind of like looking to see how LNG are going to play at the map. Because honestly, right now, like if you actually match the 1-3-1 with Ale and Icon, Icon can one-shot Nuguri, not really any sort of issue. And you still have Ale, who's going to be perfectly fine. And you end up winning the push in the mid lane. So it becomes really difficult for FPX to try and operate in that style. You just have to make sure that it's like Icon you're trying to play through and use this big advantage that the LeBlanc has.
Which he's done before in previous playoff series as well. Icon, his LeBlanc has been great. He has had pop-off series. And we kind of forget about those other ones that he's come through on things like the Renekton, even the Rise as well. Icon is the player who, if he's in a great position, he can carry games too. So alongside Tarzan, this feels like a great game too for LNG. They've got another Herald coming up soon as well, Dagda. I do believe. I'm actually just going to look at the minimap as well, if it's not already there. Yes, it is, folks. And pings are going down to set up for the second objective.
Yeah, I mean, you're massively far ahead as LNG here. I like that they're trying to find these fights. They just need to get Icon in the right position. See if he can try and burst out Lwx, and he's in a great spot.
Icon jumping in, but it is secure. The Herald over to the FunPlus Phoenix. Nuguri on a flanking angle, but Ale's also there too. LNG grouped up as a 5-man unit in a sandwich. Ladies and gentlemen, I just had dinner. There's the mid turret, and looks like LNG will try and use it to push down. As Tian comes in, that's a flash facebreaker. Thought something would happen here as the hero's entrance cancelled. On the side, Tarzan's done his job with the ultimate, and Doinb's out of the fight. LNG continue to group mid, and we keep on A-ramming.
I love how slow LNG are playing these fights, though. As though Tian.
All right, Lwandy pops him away, though. Cancelled out once more. A lot of disengage on both teams, as I'm now finding out.
I like the way LNG are playing these fights nice and slow, though, because one of the big things that we talked about was like, hey, you know, the ultimate control, the zone control that can come through from Nuguri and Doinb can be really difficult to operate if you're all jumping in as once as LNG. So having this more slower pace, right, where Icon is just dipping his foot in the water, seeing if he can get some damage onto Lwx, then backing away, not allowing himself to get caught out, setting up for potential bursts from the likes of Tarzan, from Light, like, it's about trying to play this nice and slow, see what resources you can draw out from FPX before you full commit as LNG.
And I like that. You know, you already talked about how Icon was going to be trying to do that, and now he's in a side lane as predicted as well. Onto Doinb, the magic resist shield helps quite a bit, but as he clears the wave, Doinb at half HP. This LeBlanc with almost 2 items is going to get even more dangerous. Something that LNG can continue to exhaust. Dagda in the second game. We're getting our second items on the board now as well. Everyone with a mythic bar, those supports. And Doinb's just walked into a bit of trouble. Justice punch away. Chris spotted out, but there's nothing he can do.
Well, if you just spotted 2 members on top side, LNG could try and make a play elsewhere, but look at the map, right? They don't really have their lane set up to capitalize on this, so unfortunately just going to be able to kind of back away and not be able to get too much. But one of the things I want to touch on was Lwx's build, right? Because we oftentimes see the Aphelios going for Immortal Shield Bow, which is great against a lot of bursts, but one of the big things is, and why we're kind of seeing the rise in some of these other champions like the Ashe and stuff come through, is their ability to be able to build wit's end. And especially when you got like Syndra's, LeBlanc's, Diana's, these AP assassins that are in the meta, having the ability to get more magic resist is really crucial. But for Lwx, he doesn't really have that luxury, right? He wants to get the Collector now, Infinity Edge, then he probably wants to move in towards a Runins. Like maybe you can get the wit's end at that point, but it's a long time before you get any real magic resist in this build. It means you're crazy vulnerable to so much of what LNG are want to do.
It's a good point, right? The wit's end going to be huge when you're looking at the Galio, the Kennen coming through as well. So for LNG's AD carry Light, who also has the bounty on this team, things are set up again as the flash over the wall. Ale wants to fully commit onto Nuguri, burns his own. There's the hero's entrance. And it will be just the hero's exit for LNG. Herald put down, the Chains Corruption forces Chris to use his little cleanse, his QSS. Excuse me, it was just a cleanse. And Lwx backs away as well. Herald will not get a charge. And even though Tian got both of them, both Heralds didn't do too much.
Again, though, resources burnt by FPX. Doinb's ult down is a massive win for LNG. Right as third dragon's about to spawn for LNG. So now Doinb has to play far more defensive and can't try and buy space for his backline.
Soul point massive. Justice punch in once again. Distortion to back away. Doinb on this Galio not having the same impact in the second game as Dragon's being soloed by Tarzan. Lwx has to flash away. This AD carry really hurting the chances of FPX in game number 2. They lose the Dragon. Soul point for LNG. The next minion wave's coming in, Dagda, and another structure is on the line.
Well, this is why I want to see FPX play towards Lwx in these early stages. He was kind of their damage win condition, but they try to go through Nuguri, Lwx falls behind, and LNG are reaping the rewards.
Lwandy in the flank, Predator used by Doinb onto Ale. They want to get him down while the turret drops in the meantime. Shielded ran only onto one target. Ale's dead with the Everfrost. It creates a reset, and a Renekton now picked up. Tian wants an angle, but he's bursted down by Icon, and he jumps back in for the finishing blow. Lwandy trying to disengage while Chris gets a great haymaker. Doinb jumps back in. Nuguri with the cannon. Icon's not in the fight. He's off to the wing. While FPX have lost 2, LNG can say the same.
How do they do it? How do they do this every time? And now Icon, he's trying to find some way to salvage this, but the play's done.
But he's grouped up. The chain not going to do too much to Lwx, who has Gravitum. And LNG back away. The turret's traded over. And the gold lead back down to 2.5.
And just that moment, FPX realized Icon isn't in position. He's not going to be able to follow up in this play. And they just pounce. And it means now you're getting, again, more gold going back in FPX's favor. You're going to see it here. Tian setting up beautifully on towards Ale. And they don't see where Icon is. Actually, they see Icon just on the top of this. But with everyone committed towards the tower, FPX are like, right, we can commit on towards Ale on this bottom side. We've got this great spot. And from that point forward, they're just able to carry through in the fight 4 versus 5.
I just want to watch what happened with Icon here. He went for Tian Dagda, and Nuguri was on the wing and zoning him out, but FPX just used the numbers advantage here.
Yeah, and again, Nuguri holding on to that ultimate for so long. He's been really smart in the way that he uses this ult to make sure that he's able to buy space. And it's actually a really interesting interview with Ashley Kang that Nuguri did, where he talks about like how he thinks that Kennen is more of like a tank rather than a damage dealer. And you're kind of seeing that mindset there, where he's trying to use that ultimate to buy space, to be that tank in the front line, and rather than just burst someone out and be a damage dealer.
I mean, he used it so perfectly there, and I think that's why Nuguri picked the world skin for it. One of his best champions and something we saw in game number 1. Didn't dominate the laning phase, but was perfect in these fights. Once again, utilizing the Kennen ulti and the world champion of 2020 fitting in nicely with FPX as he's done all year long. Ladies and gentlemen, the gold lead still favoring LNG. It's about 3K, but I think what's more important is that we're on Soul Point. And at that point, Dagda, in 2.5 minutes, Ocean Soul, something that FPX are going to have to fight around.
And the problem is we're actually seeing the exact issue for Lwx that we talked about now coming to fruition. He's realized, hey, look, I'm getting burst out by these assassins way too easily. I need to get this wit's end now. So he's now stopping his Infinity Edge from coming through, stopping him from hitting that key 3-item Aphelios because he needs to stop off and keep himself safe. So it means you're going hyper defensive as the core damage dealer on FPX alongside Tian. And now, when you get to these team fights at this next dragon, you're just not going to have that damage output you need.
A minute 45 till it comes up to here, Dagda. Everything on the line for LNG, considering game 1 was such a stomp, and this one is looking so much more close. Importantly, in their favor. When everything's on the line, when you're putting up your opportunity to move into semifinals, I'm glad that LNG have adapted, like we talked about, with a similar style of comp. But the way they played the early game, Dagda, their read on FPX shows why they've gotten this far. It's good to see them in the top 4, playing like a top 4 team, but Icon flashing away. Do not jinx me, sir. You're a 5-0 LeBlanc, and there's a lot of people out there favoring you right now.
And even got that early Void Staff as well, so any sort of magic resistant FPX were... Oh my god, Crisp!
Wow, there you go. And that's what he should be doing. Dagda, he flashes away because Arle's in here. Red buff only just taken, but Chris just sent packing out of fear.
And I mean, that's up in 30 seconds. Like, that's just going to happen again. Like, Chris can come back to here. They can pick him off again. Now, Doinb, he's trying to hold on to some sort of vision in this jungle, but LNG en masse are just taking control ahead of this dragon.
And Arle's in the perfect angle. Lwandy's meeting him there as well. No vision for now, but Arle jumps out of the brush and is spotted. Icon looking for Tian, and so is Light. Good poke damage here from Light, by the way, folks. Even with the on-hit build, he's 2.5 items strong. Icon onto Crisp again. Misses the chain, but Crisp once again returns to half HP.
LNG, though, playing this slow. Tian.
Lwandy has to pop the ulti, though. Tian dodges away, chains corruption, hits Lwx at max range, but Doinb coming in for the flank, but doesn't spot out Arle. He's now caught out with the solo laners to buy time. Goes golden. The shield of Duran to dissuade them further. Crisp walking into vision, but FPX burning the midnight oil a bit here with the health bars as Lwx over the wall without a prayer. Over in the moonfall as well, but Nuguri's ulti sets up for Doinb's. The all-in wombo as Crisp separates the team. Tian into the back line. Icon clearing out, but he's only buying space. Nuguri takes the bounty, and the Phoenix does it once again.
It was supposed to be slow and steady from LNG. They were supposed to bide their time, poke, prod, force FPX away, but too quickly they go for the all-in, and FPX bite back. Dragon goes the way of the Phoenix.
And that means the game goes longer, means we then again fight for that soul potential for LNG in 5 minutes. And some much-needed gold put on some of the core carries here, Dagda. We'll look again because Lwx was caught out over the wall and had to flash from the start.
And I just wanted to see this slow, right? Because look at everything that comes in on top of Lwx. Nuguri ult, Galio ult. There's so much space that's bought for the AD carry that you just can't follow up. But Lwx, through all of this, manages to stay standing. And while that's going on, Doinb's already aggressed on towards LNG's back line. Light's now under threat. Icon's in trouble as well because he's had to go so deep to kill off the Aphelios, and FPX can turn the fight.
It's just so ridiculous that he survived for so long.
Yeah.
The healing nuts and, he's running Immortal Shield Bow. The item having great effect. Now with the Wit's End Dagda, the item you wanted to see. Looks like we also see a Collector onto Light. So 3 item 80 carries, but this buys time, and coming back to it, Dagda, go on.
I just want to look at like how many shields are there for FPX, right? Because you've got the Locket of the Iron Solari, you got the Immortal Shield, sorry, just for LWX, Immortal Shield Bow, you got a Galio ult that's coming in on top of him as well. Like, he's now got a stopwatch too. Like, trying to get through this health bar is like getting through a Kingdom Hearts character. There's like 4 more of Final Fantasy characters, there's like 4 more health bars in the back that you didn't even realize existed.
It's like approaching the Black Gates of Mordor, right? You look at them and you think, well, Frodo was optimistic, but Gollum pulled you back for a reason. Not only did he want to kill you, but he's also thinking of your well-being. Fun thinking about it in that kind of space. Ladies and gentlemen, at 28 minutes into the game, we still have Game 2 going on with a couple of question marks. LNG with the gold lead, but once again, we bring it back to those items that are being picked up. And what's also on the line is the Baron, Dagda. There's a big possibility with Aphelios on the team that you have the fast enough Baron to pull a doozy under the eyes of LNG.
Yeah, again, like, we're seeing this very defensive build from LWX, so the damage is still going to be pretty insane. Can still rip through it, but going to be a little bit slower, and LNG still control the map, right? Although FPX have found a couple of these nice fights, it's still LNG with control of this game. They're the ones that have the vision control in the enemy jungle, and in theory, they can always turn back towards the Baron themselves. Like, this isn't your poke Varus. This is the on-hit Varus who does a lot of damage to that objective, alongside things like the Diana and that Renekton.
Gonna hurt quite a lot. FPX clearing out the mid wave, but look at Baron. Pings are going down to clear out some of this vision. All there is a control ward on the back of the pit, and FPX getting some deep vision themselves. So we're just playing that little game of Tootsie for now. As LNG scatter out. Icon was down the bottom lane. He's picked up a rabbit on Dagda. So we still got to look at this mid laner to burn down the core members. And Tian even getting caught out here is deep in enemy territory. He heartbreakers out, but the ulti from Doinb will not save his jungler's life as Icon flashes over the wall. And now FPX want retribution. They want revenge. Nuguri has an angle, but he's not going to take it with the Moonlight Vigil taken. Chris with the Haymaker out, but he too gets burned as Nuguri finally flies in. But Lwandy saves his AD carry's life and might even open up for a further fight. Ale with a bit of a shield, but Nuguri and LWX both alive. The stopwatch coming into fruition as Tarzan can't get the Crescent Strike. He ultis onto Nuguri, burns him down, but LWX running in once again, onto 2, onto the 3rd. Not gonna come in, and LNG will ace them clean.
And that's exactly how LNG want to try and play these fights. Pick off one member, separate FPX, stop all these shields from being impactful and making those plays count. LNG, they get the kills, they get the tower, and they're getting control back of this game. But I want to see this continue forward. I want to see this slower pace where they are looking to actually finish off stragglers. And you can see here, Icon, phenomenal TP. We already had our eyes on this mid laner for LNG. He had to be the carry, and this is the moment where he stepped up beautifully for LNG.
And then FPX kept trying to fight it, Dagda, the 4 versus 5, but they wanted to pick LNG apart.
Yeah, and look, you nailed it in this call. Like, Lwandy, that headbutt was magnificent.
Yeah.
Instantly gets the Unbreakable Will as well to make sure he pulverizes Doinb away from light, buying space for his own AD carry in these fights, which means that LNG can just focus on taking it on LWX. Now, I did glance at the bottom of the screen as LWX is making this play. It's like, if he had Moonlight Vigil, maybe this is a done deal for the Aphelios. Maybe we're calling 201 years, but not quite able to do so, and the triple kill goes to light.
Light now 9-0-3 after the fight, has a GA, so his own protection method's built up. As FPX are running towards the Dragon, Ale over the wall, but Icon runs forward onto Tian. The jungler at half HP, but the Everfrost beautiful. But to buy time, he goes golden and crisp into the backline. Ale into the thick of it as well. Tarzan's through with the slicing Maelstrom, doing absolutely nothing onto the backline. Crisp has done everything he could, but Doinb with the carry, the shield of Duran, Light Yagami running for the hills. He's been found out. LWX with the triple kill, and Dagda, no Penta, because the jungler comes in, resets, destroys Icon's LeBlanc, and the Phoenix is acting like the third seed of the split.
Doinb set that entire series in motion, instantly jumping on towards Icon, knowing that he had no flash, gets the Everfrost, and FPX, they pounce. they find the plays, and now they get the dragon, they get the bard, and holy god, Hysterics, how are they holding on to this game?
I don't know, because now gold's going to move to a pretty much even point, if not an advantage, for FPX. LNG had this game, but the fights come through again, Dagda, with similar compositions, and we know that the all-in, the dogpile, the brotherly love. I just watched Big Hero 6 last night. It's like getting hugged by Baymax here in this fight.
It's a bit of a painful hug for Icon, to be honest, because you can see there, Everfrost takes him down. Ale's the only person who's on this backline, and the second he gets joined by the Diana, instant pop of the ult from Nuguri, buying space again for Lwx. It's been so key. Nuguri has been using these ultimates so well in these fights, and you can see then Lwx off of that is just ripping apart the health bars in LNG. He just turns back towards the dragon, wipes his hands. He knows this job's done because you've already got everything here for FPX.
Man, that's why I said, Dagda, they're acting like the first seed of the split. Remember, FPX finished at the top of the charts for a reason. And coming in the first seed spot in the top 4, LNG with their miracle run had another thing coming. Remember as well that it is still a best of 5, folks, but this is not looking good here in game number 2 as Ale has to back away, and Tian has spotted out his next prey. Icon might be caught. FPX are honing in. Icon waited for with Tian. Baited Breath as the Heartbreaker. Remains up. The chain flashed over. Tian still going through, but the Baron minions are looking to take him down. Cannon minion close to getting MVP. It does in the end. And Icon has now just opened up bot.
How the mighty have fallen. The 3-0 LeBlanc now reduced to runes by the minions as FPX look to crack open the LNG base.
It's crazy to think that LNG are going to lose so much with an 11-1 Varus who still has a bounty, with Icon who was so fed in this game. FPX group up, and this is what you make of them, as back towards their Nexus turrets. Nuguri poking down for so much. The Phoenix rising ever so high as Tian jumps on top of Tarzan. The jungle v jungle story we talked about has been favoring Tian, at least for the mid game onwards here in the second game. But here in the series, the Phoenix looking to move it to match point as Chris sets up the engage. Nuguri comes in and slices them through. Play with FPX, I dare you, shouts the Phoenix as they now move to the Nexus to clean up and move to match point.
What a performance from FPX in this game. Consistently fighting back, finding those moments of opportunity, and playing to their strengths of their composition. We highlighted at the start of this game, LNG's comp, if they just dogpile in, you've got so much zone control on the FPX squad that they can buy space for Lwx, allow him to be the big carry. It took a while to get up and moving, but when it did, FPX took over this game.
Now LNG in a position where they have to fight back, they have to get the reverse sweep, something we talked about when it was LNG 2-0 up over RNG. We said, well, RNG now have to crawl their way forward. This is an experience that LNG have not been familiar with in playoffs so far. And it looked like such a good early game, Dagda. I mean, you look at the gold graph, LNG were in control for the majority of that game too.
And it was because they were playing it smart, right? We talked about how they were playing it slow, picking off stragglers with Icon, trying to see if he can get a whole chunk of burst damage down, then back out, not allowing Doinb to catch him, or for Nuguri to have these big impactful ultimates. But the later that we got, the quicker LNG were to engage. The easier it was for FPX to find these moments with Nuguri's ult, with Doinb's ult, to buy space, influence those fights so much better. And Lwx had so much time and damage to churn out, it made it impossible for LNG to have the fight they wanted.
One step away from semifinals, Dagda. Not giving a fight to LNG. Well, I'm so glad you explained the comp so well, because the Nuguri, Doinb, I mean, core players in this game, Lwx on cleanup crew. But I think as well, people like Chris, buying time in the backline was always big, where LNG, if they wanted to funnel towards FPX, had to do it little by little, person by person. Chris has played a really big role in this series so far, and showcasing why he's been highlighted as a top tier support in the league before.
Yeah, and now you say it, right? You've got one game away from FPX to walking towards semi-finals.
Yep.
And for LNG, we already had an uphill battle. Now you've got to try and reverse sweep FPX, the team that looks the most dominant in their league right now. Like, I'm not liking LNG's chances, but I think a large portion of this needs to be swapped up in the draft. I'm not liking these heavy dive compositions. We called it at the start, was like, hey, look, you can see all the mass AoE back off of me that we have coming through from FPX. Let's try and look for some range. Let's try and mix things up, because honestly, it's making things for FPX a hell of a lot easier when they can just draft so effectively against what you want to do.
We talked about LNG being adaptive, right? Talking about how they came through playoffs and how they merged towards their opponents too. So I think it's an important thing to note that when you have Tarzan on your team who's been leading the charge, you don't really have to doubt too much from this top 4 team. Against FPX has been a very strong opponent, but I want to see how far LNG can go. I want to see them push this series and try and put up a fight like we saw in Game 2. Game 2, the early game Dagda was great, but then we got to the fights. The game went on too long. It was around that 4th dragon where FPX found their mark and delayed the game long enough for their win condition.
And I think that's the thing. Game 2 kind of showed to me, hey, look, LNG can tussle. They can fight against FPX. They just need the later tools to be able to continue that form forward. And unfortunately, they just didn't have that coming into Game 2. We need to see if they can do it for Game 3.
Game 3, because now backs against the wall. Classic saying, but they need a reverse sweep to win this series and move to the semifinals. Otherwise, the Phoenix will blaze once again. And with the 3-0 or 3-1 Dagda, that's just too much to look at for FPX's chances going towards the finals. Ladies and gentlemen, bit of a quick break here. When we return, Game 3 on